So Martin Luther King Jr. is now an icon for the entire country, especially for giving everything and his commitments to social change. And celebration often focuses on the politics of social change and nonviolence as a political strategy. But there's a deeper level than that. As we know, he was very much a religious man. Even though he had his doubts at times about the church, he came to be driven by his faith, and especially in his philosophy of nonviolent resistance. And that's sort of, that nonviolent protest, it was a difficult thing, not just emotionally, but spiritually. If we really love the world as it is, and we love even our enemies, then why push so hard for change? We think being loving of everyone and open to all ideas can be seen as weak, like singing Kumbaya and holding hands in a circle of friends. We're all happy with each other and content at how open-minded and positive everyone is. And the quote that we had, that's the sentimental and anemic love that Reverend King spoke of. But love can also be powerful. As he puts it, power at its best is love. And so what I'm asking here in this short service is, where does that power of your love come from? Not what do you love or who do you love or what is love, but what makes your love powerful? That's on a spiritual level. As UUs, we don't all have a common faith to cling to. As a result, it can be difficult to talk about matters of spirit. We speak, I have times of, there are fire and brimstone preachers. We don't have fire and brimstone UU preachers so much, but we're still passionate about things, and we do have spiritual power. In 1965, Reverend King spoke a eulogy for the Unitarian minister James Reeb, who died in the Selma protests. This was just 4 years after the merger of the Unitarians and the Universalists. He added to his praise at the end, "I hope we can all find some consolation in the great affirmations of religion which tell us that death is not the end. Whether we call it immortality of influence, whether we think of it immortality in terms of continued personal existence, somewhere there is something in our faith that reminds us that death is not a period which ends this great sentence of life, but a comma that punctuates it in loftier significance." I love that he respected the UU tradition of plurality there, and in speaking for James Reeb. And I'm reluctant to speak out my own answers here because that isn't the point, right? I often share personal views, but we all have different beliefs, and we reach for something bigger than ourselves. Some may say the universe or super consciousness, God, Allah, the spirits of the four directions, the Sumerian god Enki, all sorts of things may represent love to us. But what's common, I think, is that we don't just love the world as it is. We can love it as it is, and we do, but we also love what it can become, and how we see that vision of what we want, of what the world can become. I think that's a question of spirit. Last week, Reverend Brian brought up a slide about what might replace the 7 principles in the UUA. Can we get that diagram up again? I know that's UU PowerPoints. This is our faith. But there is a point to this, right? We're changing from this listing out of 7 principles to set love at the center. And there are the words around that, and there'll be, I'm sure there's all sorts of bylaws or something about what those words mean, but there's a spirituality to that as well, with love as at the center, and there are all these things that are that surround it, and those are words, but behind them are feelings. There are ineffable spiritual spiritual truths. Reverend Brian recalled being at a protest, being proud to be identified as the love people when they had no idea who UUs were. But I'd ask to think about this, especially as we go into our different activities, then to hold in mind the question, what makes the love that you share powerful? Right. So, and it could be one of these words. It could be other words. It could be a feeling. It could be, some thesis that you wrote for theology. It could be the lessons that you've learned elsewhere. Right. That's. But all of our activities have some connection to this, I think. So afterwards, some of us will be painting rocks for the garden outside, probably not to be put out until after the rain. But those rocks or decorations, those are our public face. Those are showing who our identity is. And I think, right, those ideas of what makes our love powerful. We'll be picking a few words, phrases, pictures, and pictures. Right, these images are also part of what may be behind the power of our love. They'll also be discussing about how to represent UU as an elevator pitch. So how do we express our faith? And in order to have a pitch, right, it needs to be heartfelt. It needs to be meaningful to us. So we should think about what is behind that love. There was speaking about the poetry of Mary Oliver, maybe even trying some poetry of our own. And the poetry is especially powerful language for expressing these deeper truths. And there will also be making lunches for day laborers, which fits in with the day of service idea. And we'll add in some notes to those lunches representing our feelings and identity. Those, again, that's us expressing about how we share our love. And then we'll also be in the minister's office where we'll speak more about this topic in discussion, because if there's one thing that's at the center of UUs, it's sitting around and debating things. But there is a common feeling to this, and I wanted to emphasize again that question of what makes the love you share powerful, and that power is something to meditate on. So.